Kind of a big news story that's kind of blowing up right now. There is a video called Games Workshop is suing me. A YouTube account called Gamac. Now, Gamac is an Italian 3D printing sculptor, 3D model sculptor that makes Warhammer adjacent models. There's a video. The founder is claiming that Games Workshop is suing him. I was aware of some of the models. I thought they was pretty good. A very good designer. Let's do some copyright sleuthing. Look, lawyer hats on, chat. Lawyer expert. Copyright expert hat is on.
I'm Francesco Pizzo and I've been sculpting miniatures since 2002. It started as a hobby and gradually became my life work. First with green stuff and Fimo, then with Blender and ZBrush.
They're like some really nice designs, you know what I mean? I know obviously like this one's like a whip and stuff, but like that's a really cool design. That's a really cool design. How are those books floating? He's a wizard. Maybe that's why he's being sued. Don't want the secret to get out.
I worked for many companies like Paolo Parente Das Studios, Ludus Magnus, and even received an offer from Games Workshop through Forge Award. But I didn't accept it to stay close to my family in Italy.
Chat, I found the reason why this video exists. They were like, bro, you're so sick, take a job. And he was like, nah, I'm gonna do it my own way. And now look at him. Being sued to high heaven. Should have taken the job. Should have put the prize in the bag. You know what I mean? If you put the fries in the bag at Forge World, what's with the fucking set change, bro? Lives in a cave. No, I just wasn't expecting like a jump cut to a different setting in like kind of like a very serious video. Gamac was able to sculpt this in a cave with a box of green stuff. Classic. Absolute classic.
It was meant to be a side project, but it grew into a full-time job where I no longer work alone, but with a team of about 12 people.
Quite a large operation, you know what I mean? He mentions Patreon. He has My Mini Factory where he sells files individually. He has Tribes, which is the same as Patreon. Quite a large operation of like 12 people essentially running from a single Patreon. That's pretty impressive.
Received a legal letter from Games Workshop. They initially accused me of infringing copyright on their models.
Okay, so that is the claim. That is the initial claim. Games Workshop seems to have a bit of a tirade. I think they like hire a legal team to kind of like they kind of like release the hounds, as it were, you know what I mean? Mr. Burns release the hounds when they've got a bit of spare legal cash, and then they die down for a little bit, and then they do it again. We've seen it multiple times. We've just done a more recent one. I've just like, they just hunted down like 50 to 150 websites or something. But yeah, that's the main claim is Games Workshop sent him a cease and desist because they're copyright infringement. So copyright infringement referring to the things that Games Workshop have trademarked or they're well known for, the things that are unique to them that they've designed. They're claiming that Gamac as a company have taken those designs and profited from them, so they're suing them for copyright infringement. Now, usually the case is with these sorts of things is you kind of get a cease and desist first, which is a bit of a slap on the wrist and being like, please stop doing this. We will have to chase this up if you don't comply, you know? And then it's up to like the person who is having a cease and desist to either cease and desist. If they do, usually nothing follows. And if they don't, it usually has more legal proceedings. But that's where they start hunting and being like, are these designs actually close to my designs, you know? And then we have to like put it in front of a judge and find out.
They wanted nearly 90% of our catalog removed without providing a specific list. They requested all data on our business and collaborators and demand we sign away our creative rights for the future. 90%
of the catalog, but didn't describe a list. So I'm curious to see what they said, how they would like describe 90% of the catalog. Did they say they want 180 of 200 designs taken down? Just like that'll do. Take down 180, we'll call it a day. But also the interesting one is asking for all of the data is really crazy. But I imagine that's just like information about who's been designing so they can keep an eye on them as well. That's why I like, it's just like an initial what? I don't know. I'm not a lawsuit expert. And signing away creative rights. So the base of that means give up 90% of your catalog. Do not fucking release anything ever again by the sounds of it. Is that GDPR compliant? As someone who's also not a GDPR expert, I imagine there's probably some lawsuit loopholes in there.
Now Games Workshop have taken me to court, not for copyright infringement, but claim I was engaging in an unfair competition.
The initial cease and desist sounds like it was for copyright infringement. You know, take down 90% of your catalogue because we own it, give us your creative rights because we own it, basically. And then after he ignored them, they're now suing for unfair competition. It's definitely an odd one, because if he was like, I'm being sued for copyright infringement, I'm going to court, I'd be like, yeah. You know what I mean? But like, for the fact that it's like unfair competition, again, I'm not an expert. Right, chat, just listen. I know it's cost us like a field of water to read this, but Italian unfair competition law, primarily governed by Article 2598 of the Civil Code and overseen by the Italian Competition Authority, prohibit acts that create confusion with the competitor's business, such as misuse of names, lavish imitation of products, and spreading damaging information. If this is correct, it's because of this, right? It's because it's imitation of products. Mikey emptied the lakes for this. Look, I just Googled it. I didn't choose. No, I don't want to dive deeper. Get out. This is the big story of like, of this lawsuit is the fact that it's all about unfair competition. But if it's just because in Italy, unfair competition counts as copyright infringement, not to discredit the video already, but isn't that a bit sketch? Isn't that a bit weird to be like, that's the main, they're suing for unfair competition, but unfair competition is just copyright? Slavish, my apologies.
Not for copyright infringement, but claim I was engaging in an unfair competition.
Because that's the thing, right? Not for copyright infringement, for unfair competition. Definitely sets it up to be weird, you know what I mean? Because like, what else can they sue him for? Is it because he makes a cheaper version? Nah, you can't be sued for that, you know what I mean? Otherwise, every roller cola brand would be fucked, you know what I mean? But if unfair competition in Italy means copyright infringement, why is he saying not copyright infringement? Odd.
All because my miniatures could also be used in their games. They are not simply targeting my life's work on Gamac. This is a challenge to the very idea that an independent creator can offer alternative miniatures compatible with their games. I believe this is wrong.
If we're taking this video verbatim, yes, I do believe that is also wrong. If it's the fact that someone else makes miniatures that could also be used in a game because they're the same size and they have guns and swords, that would be a very unfair way to use a lawsuit to try and shut down like quote unquote competition. And it was like, it would be like any miniature ever sold by anyone other than Games Workshop could be used in a Games Workshop game. So you could sue them for it if this was the case. But like I said, I know I'm only 2 minutes into a 3-minute video and I'm talking all over it. But like, what are we doing here? If the unfair competition just means copyright infringement, this might be a little bit misleading. Probably doesn't help whilst you're talking about Games Workshop overreaching when you have a one-to-one copy of The Mandalorian and Yoda, which probably designed by you, in the background. You know, if we're talking about corporate overreach of like copyright infringement, probably not the best time to have that in the background. Quite a powerful video. You know, it's had 85,000 views in 4 days. I know I'm actually a little bit late to this. There's a GoFundMe that has currently raised 35,000 euros of, ironically, 40,000 euros goal. And it's mostly a repeat of the statement, you know what I mean? And then he says, below you can find some examples of models GDO claims are counterfeit. Should remove each image shows Gamac allegedly counterfeit models on the left and Games Workshop's models on the right. Okay, so these are the counterfeit ones. But we got a guy in a dragon versus guy in a horse, a Roman knight. Like, nowhere near, you know what I mean? Roman or Greek guy riding a lion, nowhere near. That one's quite funny. That one, that's a big fuck up by GDO, I think. Trying to claim an eagle is crazy, bro. Trying to claim an eagle is crazy, dude. Oh, nowhere near. Isn't that crazy? You know, they're like what they're showing, you know, big, here's the video, here's the big statement, here's the Games Workshop corporate overreach, you know what I mean? And I think, like I said, like Gamac, or the company of Gamac, is really talented. And some of these models You can see some similarities, don't get me wrong. These are ones that I've picked up today. You can see some similarities, but like they're pretty original. Even these, I would say. Now, you could say these are Black Templars, but they're like similar but different, you know what I mean? They're very, very similar, but different enough. I feel so unbelievably based purely on the information he's providing, but I'm waiting for the reveal of, well, actually, are the ones that are identical. However, these are the ones that I've gathered. However, oh yeah, he's holding a sword and a shield, but that's a storm cannon, that's a grab flux, and that's a claw and a drill. Do you think there might be some similarities on this one? If it's not the guns, which are, you know, ever so slightly different, the claw is fairly similar. This is fairly similar to a storm cannon, except that it's 2 barrels, not 4. The shape of the body, identical. The fucking leg plates are identical. If the silhouette's there, it's identical. Yeah, big time. This is absolutely crazy, dude. How has he been able to sell this for so long? Oh, it's because he ignored them in 2023, that's why. Which 2 years later, and he's only just saying something about it. This one? This is wild. Look at that. It's the same. The only difference here is, okay, the armor panels are slightly different shapes, but and he's got a skull for a mask, but come on, dude. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but these are just some pictures I found on the internet I put together on a thing and called it Wraith Night. Even the backpack, like the vents are identical. The ribs coming off, the other weapon shapes are almost identical. The legs are slightly different. That's about it. Chat, it doesn't end. Chat, it doesn't end. If you just put the sword down slightly, completely different. Put the sword down slightly, still stood on a marine and a rock. Bro, he's stood on a space marine. Chat, this isn't what he's provided. This is just what I went on my mini factory for like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh, they're pretty close. It's a tactical space marine. His lawyers ain't winning this one. The lawyers are like, yeah, we're just going to need a little bit more money for this one. The Hell Brute? I mean, they're waging war engine. Bro, are you kidding? Are you having a laugh, dude? Even like the Chaos Star isn't copyright. You can't copyright a Chaos Star. But like the positioning of where you have said Chaos Star is copyrightable. You know what I mean? And you're not even trying, bro. This is like low effort. Like the feet are the same. The fact it's got a skull here and then armor plates here. The horns coming out of the top. The rider you can kind of look past, but it's like the star, like the trim is like almost identical. We have Hellbrutes at home.
Oh, Mikey! Super chat £5. This is giving the purple site. I cannot believe they are coming for my original work.
Come on, what are you playing at, dude? Like having these on here being like, oh, this is the ones that Games Workshop are trying to take off me, like an eagle, you know what I mean? When I'm sure maybe a couple of these might pop up, you know? I'm sure maybe a couple of these might pop up in that 90% catalog taken down. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not like an expert on this thing, but like, come on now. I'm not sure what you're expecting, and to continue selling them for another 2 years when you could have just taken it down, you know? Oh my lord, dude. What the hell? What the helly? This is ridiculous, dude. That's 1 for 1. If it was a floating tank, no one would bat an eye, but it's the design language of the front plate. It's all the same. Like, look how this shape is, you know, like cut in here with like raised bit on the right hand side, then cut in again. Okay, he's changed it to the left side. That's not original. That's mirroring it. Mikey, to be totally fair, you have to admit there's only so many ways you can rip off a repulsor. Bro. He just fucking flipped the image, didn't he? Chat. Completely different. Never means the same ever. Fuck. It's the same guy. It's the same. It's just mirrored. Bro, you're not even trying. What are we playing at? It's this literally the identical. But like, yeah, to be like selling like these, like the Land Raider, like the Wraith Knight, like the Demon Prince, and then to be like, oh yeah, it's Games Workshop trying to copyright me because of a lion. It's quite disingenuous in my opinion. I do think this is very disingenuous. I don't think saying all of this and then being like, right, okay, you know, these are the ones that they've got a problem with. But there was an update. We have shared this update in the GW written summons as well as the docket registration of the case, which is pending before the Court of Catania. As a customer in the Italian jurisdiction, none of this information is available on the PST or Ministry of General Public. Only parties in the case have access. However, misrepresenting the court case, some people say that the Italian legal Article 2598 is an all-oppressive IP action in Italy and the equivalent of a DMCA claim. This is what, obviously, I initially thought. Infringement of intellectual property rights, trademarks, patents, copyrights on the one hand are and Art 25981, 1, 2, and 3 of the Italian Civil Code. On the other are two discrete and distinct concepts under Italian law. The characterization, according to the article, appears to be just the normal process for IP actions to take place through is wrong. GW is arguing Article 2598 only. The main basis that GW uses to argue 2598 is that the signs, elements, or shapes that Francesco used in his models would immediately identify them as models coming from GW. We dispute this. Our point being that GW is not able to demonstrate the distinctness of their models because the signs, elements, shapes present in Gamma models draw from imaginary universes over which GW has no exclusive rights. Our lawyers believe that Article 2598 will set precedent since this appears to be the first case of its kind brought in front of a European court. If it should end with the finding that GW can claim Article 2598, which is a concept closer to look-alike in UK or in Anglo-Saxon law system for any model depicting subjects or characters that Francesco's model depict, that would indeed create a troublesome precedent for a whole miniature 3D printed industry. So, what they're saying, and chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Games Workshop is saying that they use signs, elements, or shapes that would immediately identify them as coming from GW, but then Gamak is saying that we don't use your logos, we have our own made-up ones. But are Games Workshop suing them for the logos or the shapes of the model? They don't technically use any, they don't have a Thousand Suns logo on here, but the shape of the silhouette is crazy. Isn't that just Belial's logo? Chat, he's done it again. Watch. Fuck! He's done it again. He just turned it upside down. Yeah, deliberately obtuse is probably the issue I'm having with it. The grounds claims Games Workshop the infringement of the trademarks by defendant, unfair competition by the defendant. So like infringement of trademarks is using the logos and then unfair competition. So that's the one that's like in the air because he said it's not copyright infringement, but is not point A copyright infringement. Put an image of Discord of Gamak forget to flip the y-axis of the Dark Angels logo. Bro, it's identical. Ah, dude, what was he thinking? A, logos. B, which is these, which is imitation, which will be the silhouettes, right? It's a fine line to walk, and I hate to say it, but it does feel like a little blatant imitation and passing off. Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of it's quite misleading in the statement in the video. Or any other appropriate measure pursuant to Article 259 to prevent continuation, limiting the effects of infringement committed by the defendant. By way of evidentiary measures, order the disclosure of the defendant's accounting records, invoices, and any other documents related to or in any way connected to the infringed miniatures created, manufactured, purchased, advertised, and or sold by the defendant. Chat, they're coming for you. Chat, they're coming for you. Did you buy from Gamak? You're on the line. They're going to send you Games Workshop newsletters and be like, Gamak, cringe, Games Workshop based. They're going to come after you. They're going to be like, bro, you're on our newsletters now. Don't you dare buy any STLs. They're going to be in your inbox. Be like, you got an email from Elegoo? Get fucked. I'm coming for you as well. Pinkerton's coming to take the STLs off your hard drive. The reason they want this is not to come around to your house and take away all your 3D printed models. It's so they can be like, look how much is sold. This is how much they made. This is how much we should have made. Let's sue him for all that as well. It's to be like, this is how much you made from us. So we get that money, but also if we'd sold all those models individually, we would have made this money, so we need that as well. Need to send videos of deleting files and burning toys in GW by the end of the week. They're gonna come for your chat. They want your name, address, email. Gonna come stamp on your toys and then realize that you've not hollowed them out properly, so they're full of uncured resin, and then they're gonna sue you for poison damage, like hazardous poison damage. This company deserves to have their complete operation taken down. But like, clearly there's an issue here, you know?